Welcome guys to the second video of this playlist in which we are building a spending tracker app. In the first video, we set up our core data layer and its domain layer as well. In this video now, we'll set up our navigation and some shared utility between the features that we will have in this app and also create our balance feature. So let's see that. Here is our app. We have three screens which are this home screen or spending overview screen. We have the details screen right here, or create a new spending screen, you could call it. This is it. And then we have the balance screen. So what we'll do is we'll set up our navigation between these screens and then some shared utility. If we go to dark theme, things like the background of our app because it's a little bit of gradient, and then we'll also try creating the balance feature, the balance scale, where we enter some balance and then we save that like this. So let's get started with it. Let's go here, go to our core. That's where we'll start from. From the presentation in util, we'll have our first file called screen. Actually, it's not going to be a class, but a sealed interface. And we'll have our screens. The first one is our spending overview screen. So it's going to be a data object, and it's going to be spending overview. And that inherits or implements screen like this. But since we want to use the new type safe navigation, which I have a video for in my channel, you can check that out. I will leave its link in the description. We want to annotate this with @kotlinx.serialization.serializable. So we need this to make this screen work in our type safe navigation. The next screen is the spending details and then the balance screen. These are the three screens that we have. There's one thing for you, not for me, for your homework, which is editing a spending. In my case, I won't be editing in a spending, which means the spending details, I'd rather call it, in my case, create spending screen, for example, or something like that. Because let me just open the app. This is how it's going to look like. Just click on this and that's it. There's no data passed to it or anything. But in your case, you want it to look something like this as well. So you want to click on an item and then you want to show the data of the item and you want to change some data of this item. For example, the kilograms, let's say 10 kilograms, you save that and it's saved as 10 kilograms. I'm not going to show you how to edit an item because I said that's your homework, and also adding images also is your homework. In your case, it's going to be a data class like this and it needs to take an ID. So val spending ID of type int. Let's give it a default value, which is -1. So if it's -1, then we try to create a new spending. If it's not -1, so if it's a valid ID, then we are trying to edit a spending. That's how it's going to be for you. Okay. Now we want to go here and create our background. So let's create a file called background, and actually just a file, not a class. So a composable function background. In this one, we want to have a box to represent our background that will take this modifier. And let me just go to a new line. The first we want is to fill the max size actually. So fill max size. And I want to give it a background. This is material theme dot color scheme dot background color. So we first want to have the background color. And then we want to give it now a gradient. Why? Because if I directly give it a gradient, then that gradient will start from a transparent color or whatever color that would be the default. So it wouldn't really look like the color I defined in my gradient. So I first need to start from a background color that is a solid background color. And then I want to create another background that is now going to be my brush. And that is going to be brush.vertical gradient and a list of material theme.color scheme.inverse primary. And of course, I don't want it to be completely visible, but just something like 2.3f, 0.3f. And then the next color is going to be the background color. So material theme.color scheme.background. So now this is my background. It's going to be used in all of the features. Now let's go to our main activity and set up the navigation. First of all, delete this grating screen or composable, and also delete this scaffold. I don't need that. In every screen, I will have a scaffold. Here, I will have a composable function called navigation, and I want to call that. So navigation, I could definitely pass a modifier to it if I want. So modifier.fill max size. That's all I need. I don't have to set the background here so that it's set up for all the features, because in every feature I will have a scaffold and the scaffold won't just show that background. I need to set the background for every feature because they have a scaffold. And I can definitely do a special thing, which is go into my util and create my own scaffold. So right here, I could create a new file called my spending scaffold, set up as some way of design system. That is also something I explained in one of my videos. I will leave that link in the description, in which I built a login in register UI. I created a design system in which I created a shared text field and some other elements. You can create that, create a scaffold that is shared between the screens. I'm just going to not do that. If you just watch that, you can understand how to create it. It's really simple, not that hard. Here, I want to create a nav controller. So val nav controller is going to be remember nav controller. Then I want to create a nav host like this that takes my nav controller and a start destination that is going to be my screen dot screen overview like this. Spending overview, that's going to be my start destination. Take this to a new line. And it's just put my screens. They are going to be inside composables like this. So composable, it's going to be for the first one my screen dot spending overview, and here I will have that screen. Let's just put a little text in here and maybe a box so that we align that. So modifier dot fill max size and put the text inside it. I want to say content alignment dot center, import alignment, and that's great. Could now put my background here so that I can at least sit before putting those scaffolds. So background like this. Let's move on to the next screen. That is my spending details, and then spending maybe details as well, and then here balance. In here actually I'm going to create the screen itself, so just like this. Now I want to assign my modifier to this nav host, so modifier. I think I can already run my app and see if I can see my navigation, at least my which screen, spending overview screen. Here we get an error, and I know what the error is. It's in my entity. We want to go to our core data local, my spending entity. I need to annotate this ID with primary key. So add primary key, auto-generated set to true. So auto-generated true. Maybe we can separate it from the other ones to actually tell it's the ID or the primary key. Run the app. Hopefully we don't have any more errors. And we have an error, so it's the Kotlin version maybe. Let me just copy this version, go to my libs .versions.tomo and close everything. Maybe right here. I need to use the new Kotlin version or the newer Kotlin version. I think Android Studio should do this by default. Okay, we updated our Kotlin version. Let's try again. And while the app is running, I want to tell you about my premium course that will make you build an industry level app with its own Ktor backend using industry level skills like clean architecture, Jetpack Compose, navigation, dependency injection, and more. So you will learn to combine all these things in a one solid industry level Android app. You can find its link in the description. The app is taking a little too long to run, and it actually feels hot in this room because it was raining and the humidity with the heat. Okay, now the app is launching, and yes, we can see our spending overview. Our navigation works. Let's just close the app and let's go and create our balance screen. So right here, or rather say our balance feature, let's start with the state. So data class called balance state, and it will only have one state, that is val the balance itself. So balance of type double, and the default value is 0.0. The next thing is the actions that the user can do in this balance screen. So we have balance actions or just action, an interface. And by the way, this is the MVI design pattern for our presentation layer. So sales interface. If you actually want me to explain MVI in details and mvvm in details, so the difference between them, then just let me know. I will do that. Anyway, this one is a data class that is on balance changed. So when we update our balance, this takes a new balance of type double, and it implements my balance action interface. The next one we can duplicate. This is going to be just an object in which we just save the balance. So on balance saved, or on save balance, and we don't need to take anything here. That's it. This is how they're going to look like. We want to create our view model. So this is actually how I love to do it. When I build an app, I love to start with my domain layer, in this case, which is the domain I have in core. And even if I have a domain layer in each of these features, then I want to start with that. Always loving starting with my domain layers, then creating the data layer, and then the presentation layer. And in the presentation layer itself, I love starting with the state and actions, and then create the view model, and then the screen. And the screen is just representing whatever logic we have in the view model. So I think that's a good way to actually create your feature, because it's just straightforward like that. So now we want to create our view model. So balance view model, and it's a class. This one clearly it's a constructor, and it extends view model. This view model, this one, we want to create our, we want to pass or inject our core repository. We need that, since that's how we can update our balance. We want to create our state of our state by mutable state of my balance state like this, and import, and then private state, since I don't want to change this one outside this view model. The first thing we want is to get the balance, which is going to happen in the init of this function. So we want a view model scope dot launch, and state is going to be state dot copy. My balance is going to be my core repository dot get balance. Here I have the balance. I want to have a function called fun on action that takes an action of type balance action, and then when my action is something that is one of these things, when its balance changed, I want then to update my balance. So state is going to be again state.copy. Balance is going to be my action.new balance. If it is saving the balance, and that is going to be my view model scope, since I need my repository again, dot launch, and core repository dot update balance to my state dot balance, the balance I have in my state. So I just try to update it right here. So this is, if we check the app, and when we go here, so on balance changed means changing the balance to a new number like 300. On balance saved, clicking on the save button. So that's the two actions that we have, or these are the two actions we have. We can now create our screen. A new Kotlin class or file called balance screen, and that's going to be a file. And I'm going to use a live template that I have in here. So it's called compose screen, this one. And simply, if you want it, I will actually leave it in some file on GitHub maybe. So you want to go to your settings, go to editor, and search for live templates somewhere here, right here. And then here it is. And it's actually a template that makes you create a screen with its own core screen, with its own view model. In my case, I use Koin view model because I actually now just tend to use Koin instead of Dagger Health. The screen, and then here's the screen with the state and action, and then the preview. So I will actually leave you this live template. You can just add a new one here and name it the same. And the way it works is like this. So it's going to be comp screen like this. You click on it and it gives you the whole screen. And in my case, it's balance screen. Then I create my balance view model. And then I move on to create my balance state. And then a balance action. And then my preview, which is spending, the theme. So I easily create screens using this live template. I will leave this template in the description so that you can create it by your own or add it in your Android Studio. However, when we click on the save balance button, we want to go back to the previous screen, which means we want to have here an on save click lambda function like this that does not take anything, just unit. We'll have the same actual button down here in my screen. And then I'm just going to say on save click is going to be on save click. But there is one thing actually, since I also want to save the balance in my shared preferences, which means here I want to call on save click like this. But then before that, I want to use my view model dot on action, and then balance action dot on balance saved. I save my balance and then I go back to the previous screen. Right here, I need to pass that. So on save click, on save click, actually just an empty lambda function. So the screen, let's actually have it right here. We have a scaffold in which we have this top bar. So let's create that and just make this a little smaller. So it's going to be scaffold, and this scaffold needs a top bar. Top bar is going to be a top up bar that I first need to opt into this annotation. The text is simply text. It says, for example, balance or update balance. For the text that we have in our top bar, we actually need to specify the font, but for the rest of the text not. Montserrat, I think that's how it's pronounced. And I want to give it a font size of 20, let's say 24.sp, import sp. And I want to give it a color, material, theme.colorscheme.primary. That's the color we want. Here we actually get padding. And then we want to also adjust our top bar a little bit. So we want to give it a modifier. It's going to be a new modifier. Then we just want to give it some padding from the start. Let's say 12.dp, so that we push our text a little bit to the start here. And then we want to give it colors. So colors is going to be top up bar default dot top up bar colors, and the container color is going to be transparent. The same for scroll container color. So if we scroll, even though we don't scroll here, but we do that right here, and that will work for the other screen. That's it for the scaffold. Now we want to create the content of the screen itself. The first thing we want is our background, clearly. So we want to add our background. We want to create a little bit of a spacer right here. So spacer, let's say a height of maybe 20.dp. That's not 20. Let's go for 24. That would be great. Want to put a text? We can just copy this one, paste it right here. The text is going to be my balance. So state dot balance, but I want to put a $sign before that. So a string like this, $sign, and then another $sign, state.balance. I don't have to specify a font weight, and I want this one to be a little bit big, the font size. The color can still be primary, but then I want the font weight. Actually, I didn't want to specify the font family, but I want to specify the font weight to be semi-bold. That's it for this text that shows the balance itself. And then I want to create another spacer that has a height of, let's say, just 16.dp. Actually, 16 seems too small, maybe 38. Yeah, that's actually the space. And then I want to have an outlined text field like this. It takes a value that is going to be my state dot balance dot to string, since that's a string. And then on value change, I want to use my on action dot balance action dot on balance changed, passing it as the new one. And since I want double right here, I'm going to write dot to double or null if that is not double, and then the default is going to be 0.0 if that's null. I then want to give it a label, which is what we see here before entering anything. So label is going to be a text, simply is just going to say enter balance. The text style here is going to be text style. We just want to specify the font size to be 18.sp. It's a little bit bigger than what it would normally be. And then the font, actually, I'm sorry, the max lines is going to be 1. I want 1 line. The keyboard options is going to be keyboard options, keyboard type dot decimal. I want a decimal number, and that's it actually for it. I just need to use my padding. I need a column. Everything needs to be inside the column. So here I'm going to pass a modifier to my column dot padding is my padding. And then actually that's it. Maybe I also need to fill the max size, but I don't think that's important. We want to have everything inside this column. I think that's great now. So after this text field, let's first take this height because we need it again. That starts from here and it's right here. We want to put this spacer again, and then want to now have an outlined button. In the on click, we want to call on save click. We want to give it a modifier as well. Actually, I also need to give a modifier to my outline text field. So modifier is going to be a modifier dot fill max width. That's what I need. And then some padding horizontally. So padding horizontally, let's say 16.dp. Right here now in my button, I also need a modifier. Just going to give it some padding from the start of 16.dp as well. So we just want to push it by 16.dp. And I think, okay, I don't need to do that in each component. I go to my column and then write dot padding horizontally 16.dp. Yeah, so I could just have everything pushed by 16.dp from the sides. Inside my button, I'm going to have an icon and a text. So all of that is going to be inside a row. This row, we just have a vertical alignment to center vertically. The first thing is an icon. That is an image vector. So icons dot default dot check. That's what I need. This description, for example, could be save balance. And then I want to give it a size. So modifier dot size of, let's say, 33.dp. Then a text that says again save balance. And this text, we need some stuff like the font size is going to be 20.sp, so a little bit big. I guess that's it. What I can do now is see if everything is all right. And how do I do that? With the preview. And as you can see in the preview, it looks all right. I'm going to do one thing, which is put in a little bit of a space between the icon and the text. So right here, spacer with, let's say, 8.dp, just like that, even a little bit more, so 12. I think it looks just great. And that's it for this video. If you like what I'm doing, then you'll like my premium course in which you can build an industry level Android app with its own Ktor backend for a really good price. You can find its link in the description. In the next video, we'll continue with the other features. Also support me by subscribing and leaving a like in this video. See you in the next video. Bye.